Hey friends, Thanksgiving is right around the corner and I'm already starting to think about what classic recipes we're gonna make that we always make every year and maybe what new recipes I wanna try. So in today's video, I'm bringing you 20 of our most favorite tried and true Thanksgiving recipes, everything from Crockpot ham to side dishes to appetizers and of course desserts. Everything is in here. So whether you're just wanting to hang out with me while you cook or prep today, or maybe get a new idea or two for this upcoming Thanksgiving, thank you so much for joining me. And y'all, let's get right on into all these recipes. So first, to a skillet, we're gonna start by melting 2 tablespoons of butter. Along with that, I'm adding 2 tablespoons of flour. Just gonna whisk that around. I'm just gonna let that flour cook for just a minute. All right, next to the pan, we're gonna add 1 cup of sour cream. And then 1 small onion, about 1/4 of a cup. This one's probably a little bit more than that, but that's okay. And we're just gonna stir this around and let this cook for just a couple minutes on low. Next to the pan, I'm adding in 3 cans of French style green beans that I have already drained. Might have used a bigger pan, but we're gonna make it work. Go ahead and turn this off. And we're just gonna combine everything, the green beans with this sauce. And obviously this is a substitute for the traditional cream of mushroom soup that is in green bean casserole. And nothing wrong with the mushroom soup, but I do think this has a little bit more flavor. It's just really, really good. So maybe if you've never tried it, or maybe if you don't like green bean casserole with the cream of mushroom soup, maybe you can try it this way. All right, so I have my baking dish. I'm gonna bring over our green beans and get those into our dish. Now we're gonna top it with about 2 cups of cheddar cheese. So when you're ready to bake, all you'll do is add your crispy onions. I say just measure this part with your heart. And then this is gonna bake in the oven at 350 for about 30 minutes. Also, if your onions start to brown too much, just cover them with a piece of foil.
It's an early December morning, no one but we are. We look out the window as it's starting to snow, and I realize.
First things first, we're gonna cook a ham in the crock pot. Truth be told, I love a good ham for Thanksgiving, maybe even better than the turkey. This one just came from Walmart. It is the brown sugar glaze. They also have a honey flavor. I think we're actually gonna use this glaze that comes with it. It doesn't feel like a liquid in here. It just says it's brown sugar, fructose, molasses, maltodextrin, spices. Can't hurt anything. We're gonna throw this in here too. All right, y'all. Get our ham into our slow cooker. And any ham will work. You don't even have to get a flavored one. And really, these hams are fully cooked anyway, so all we're doing is just adding a little bit of flavor to it and warming it up. Next, I just have 1 can of pineapple slices. You want to use the one that's in 100% pineapple juice. And I'm just going to kind of hold the slices in there with my finger, but I'm going to pour over about half this can of pineapple juice. Next, I just have some brown sugar. You can really eyeball this part depending on how big your ham is. Of course, I'll have a recipe typed out below. But next, we're just gonna sprinkle on some brown sugar. And like I said, I'm probably gonna use that little packet that it came with, because why not, right? All right, next, you can either use honey or pure maple syrup. Just don't use like a pancake syrup. Make sure it's the pure maple syrup if you're gonna do this, but I love using maple syrup in my holiday recipes especially. And we are just gonna pour some right on top. I'm gonna try to use my spoon to kind of rub it in with the brown sugar a little bit. And if it drips down on the sides, that's perfectly fine. It's just gonna kind of caramelize up in here when this ham cooks and give you those delicious little bits with that caramelization on it. That's my favorite part. Next, we're gonna take our pineapple rings that were in that can of pineapple, and we're just gonna place some all over top. Depending on how your ham is shaped, they may not sit on top perfectly, but you can just kind of put them around the sides as well. All right, this part is optional, but I'm gonna add a little cherry because it's the holidays. Let's make it a little bit festive to each one. And plus, thanks to my old-fashioned loving husband over here, we always have cherries on hand. Next, I have a little bit of pineapple juice left in here, so I think I'm just gonna kind of go around the edges, try not to knock off all of our little cherries and pineapples we just did. Okay. And then lastly, our leftover brown sugar. I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit more on top. All right, we're gonna see if my crock pot lid will go on with my ham. It's not sticking up too much, it may fit, but if not, I'm gonna show you a trick. All right, let's see if she'll fit. I think she might work. Okay, here's my trick if your lid doesn't fit. You're just gonna take 2 layers of tin foil, pop it around your crock pot top, and there you go. You can use that as a lid. It'll work perfectly fine. I think since mine barely fits, I'm gonna add 1 layer of All right, I'm gonna get that on there as tight as I can. Then I'm gonna place my lid on top. I'm just gonna cook mine on low. Let's go 5 hours and we'll check it from there. Alrighty, y'all, so our ham has been cooking and I'm pretty sure it's done. I just took a little peek a second ago. It is looking so good. And it is smelling delicious as well. Like I said, these hams are already cooked, but I mean, I can already tell it's gonna be tender. It is like already just falling off the bone that it's in. I'm gonna take it out of this broth and everything so we can kind of slice it up. I have a good feeling about it though. All right, I haven't even tried to completely slice it yet. You can already see this looks delicious, smells delicious, is super, super tender. This is so good. Y'all definitely need to make this for Thanksgiving. All right, we're giving it a try. As you can see, it is still steaming hot. But Darren just said he thinks it's the best spiral ham he's ever had. It is so good. You can really taste that pineapple juice in there, can't you?
You can. And the brown sugar.
It's just the right amount of sweetness. This is good, y'all.
Well, a lot of the spiral hams that you cook in like the oven and stuff like that can dry out.
Yeah.
But this is perfect.
Yes, all that liquid in there cooking along with it. So good. So for this recipe, you do want to start out by baking a pan of cornbread. Just use whatever recipe or brand is your favorite. I have my large skillet out here. I'm adding 4 tablespoons of butter. We're gonna let this melt and we're gonna saute our celery and onions in the butter. Our butter is melted, so now I'm adding in about 1 cup of chopped celery and then just 1 small onion. So I have my pan of cornbread already baked. So since I'm halving this recipe, I'm just gonna crumble half of my cornbread into this large bowl here. And we'll just save the other half in case anybody just wants some plain cornbread. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and chop mine up since it's hot with my spatula. Next to the bowl, we're gonna add some crumbled and dried, just regular old bread. Any kind you have in your cabinet will work. So I just threw some bread in the oven while this was finishing baking. And now I'm just gonna crumble it all up into the bowl. Next to our bread mixture, we're gonna add some saltine crackers. The recipe calls for 1 sleeve, but I'm just gonna use about half. All right, we're just gonna go ahead and combine this really quick. And now I'm just bringing over those sauteed veggies, the celery and the onions. Put those right on top. All right, next we're gonna add some chicken stock. And we have about 3.5 cups here. I'm just gonna add in about half of this, mix it, and then add some more. And also, I'm not sure where I heard this tip. I might have already told you guys this, I can't remember. But when making your southern cornbread dressing, you want the consistency to be that of like a creamy, wet oatmeal. If you can imagine how that is. So obviously this is gonna need a little bit more. See how it's a little bit crumbly. And we're also gonna add some eggs here in a minute, so that will help as well. And this is so good, y'all. I could seriously just have this for Thanksgiving and I would be happy. All right, I think we're just gonna go ahead and use all of this. All right, can y'all see this consistency? It really does have that of a creamy oatmeal. So I think that's a pretty good description. All right, now we're gonna add about 3 eggs. Next, we're just gonna add a sprinkle of black pepper, some salt, adding about a half a teaspoon of sage. Smells like Thanksgiving. And then about a half a tablespoon of poultry seasoning. All right, we're just gonna stir everything up. To save on dishes, I'm just gonna use that same pan that we baked the cornbread in. I just took that other half out. We're gonna get it into our baking dish. All right, and this is going into the oven at 350 for about 45 minutes to an hour until the middle and everything is completely set. So I may or may not have shared this recipe. I think I did, but it was in a vlog, so I had to include it because y'all, this is one of my all-time favorite Thanksgiving recipes. It is so easy, and if you've never tried homemade cranberry sauce, I'm here to show you just how easy it is. And it's only 4 ingredients. We have our cranberries, half a cup of water, 1.5 cups of sugar, because yes, it is sweet, and then just a few spices. I'm adding half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, half a teaspoon of ground allspice, 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground ginger, and a little less than 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground clove. That clove comes through very strong. Your house is gonna smell like the holidays, but it's very strong. It's good though, but I want y'all to try it with just a little less than 1/8. I think that's the perfect amount. So now all we're gonna do is bring this up to a simmer, combine everything, and all of these little cranberries are gonna kind of burst open. It'll start to thicken up on its own. The cranberries will release their own liquid and juices, and it is so, so good. This is definitely one you can make ahead of time, especially if you like your cranberry sauce cold. You can even make it the day before, pop it in the fridge. That's what I do, and that's one less thing to do on Thanksgiving Day. And this is gonna come to a simmer and simmer for about 30 minutes until it's thickened. Next, we're gonna be making some cream corn. This stuff is so delicious, and I only make it for Thanksgiving around the holidays. We're gonna start with 1 12-ounce frozen bag of whole kernel corn. If I was making this for Thanksgiving, I might double this recipe, but it's just us here tonight. Next, we're gonna add half a tablespoon of sugar, half a cup of half and half. We're gonna add 3 tablespoons of butter. Next, I'm just adding in half a block of cream cheese that I again just cubed that up. Lastly, I'm just gonna season with some salt and pepper. My corn is freezing my half and half, y'all. All right, and again, I'll probably come and stir this a couple times throughout, but this is just gonna cook on low for about 3 hours. Alrighty, y'all, so our cream corn has been cooking on low for about 3 hours. I'm just gonna give it a stir, and as you can see, it's definitely creamy. I don't know if y'all can tell the texture of it, and the creaminess is kind of thin, so I saw a little trick somebody did on TikTok, and I thought we would try it. This is totally optional. You do not have to do this. This recipe is delicious how it is on its own. I've had it many times. But if you have an immersion blender, you're gonna stick it down in your corn, and you're not gonna blend this, but just literally for a couple seconds. You're only gonna blend a tiny little bit of it, and that blended corn is gonna help thicken it right up, and the consistency will be more, you know, like you're used to, like a cream corn that you would just buy. I don't know if y'all could see, that was not sped up, that was real time. I maybe blended that for 5 seconds max. And I'm just gonna grab the camera really quick, pull y'all down so I can show you closer. And now you can see it is a perfect creamed corn consistency. That is exactly what we were going for. This turned out really good, and I love that tip. Awesome tip and super easy and delicious recipe. Next up, we have twice baked potato casserole, and you're gonna start this with a 24-ounce container of refrigerated mashed potatoes from the grocery store. Bob Evans are really good if you've never tried them. We're gonna pop those into a bowl. Next, we're gonna add about a half a bag of shredded cheddar cheese, the Tillamook again, so good. Also gonna add half a cup of sour cream, a sprinkle of salt, pepper, and onion powder. Next, we're gonna add about 4 strips of cooked and crumbled bacon. Next, we're just gonna mix everything together. So next, once everything's mixed together, we're just gonna place this into a baking dish, and we're gonna top with the remainder of that cheese. It's just an 8-ounce bag of cheese. You can use any kind that you like. Now this is gonna go into the oven for about 30 minutes. And all of these recipes will be linked or typed out in the description box below. Once your casserole is nice and bubbly, we're gonna add 2 more strips of cooked bacon to the top. You could also add scallions or anything else you would add to a potato at this point. And I have to say, we all love this, especially my kids. This made for a super easy weeknight side dish. You could totally even use this for the holidays coming up. I'm going to show you the best squash casserole. Also, by the way, I'm having this recipe, but it made a ton, perfectly enough for our family, which is a family of 4. So to a large bowl here, I'm adding about 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise. You're gonna need 1 can of cream of chicken soup. To that, I'm also gonna add 1 small diced onion. We're gonna add 1 egg, a little bit of salt and pepper, and then about 4 ounces of shredded sharp cheddar cheese. We're gonna mix that all together. Once everything is combined, you're just going to bring back over those squash, and you're just going to pour your cheese and egg mixture all over your squash, just kind of tossing that around a little bit, stirring around, make sure each squash has its own little portion of this delicious cheese sauce. Next, I'm just going to bring over my baking dish, give that a good spray with some cooking spray, and pour our squash and our cheese and all that goodness into the baking dish. Now we're going to make a quick little topping for the top, obviously, because you know that's what a topping is. But of course, a casserole would not be Jen style if it didn't have some buttery Ritz crackers or cornflakes on top. So that's what we're gonna do. You melt half a stick of butter, and then I'm using a half a tube of Ritz crackers, all crushed up. You just want to stir those together, get all the crackers nice and buttery, kind of sprinkle that on top, and this is gonna bake at 350 for the first 30 minutes covered with some aluminum foil, and then you'll uncover it and it'll bake an additional 20 or 30 minutes, and you want those crackers to get a nice golden brown on top. Y'all saw and heard how bubbly and delicious this gets. Y'all are gonna love this if you've never tried it. Of course, I'll have it linked down below for you or typed out. Okay, speaking of Pioneer Woman, we're actually gonna make her sweet potato casserole. She calls them so sweet taters. I've been making them for a few years now, and you cannot beat this recipe. So I just bake my sweet potatoes in the oven until they get nice and soft. Makes them super easy just to pop out of the skin. Then you just add some sugar, some white sugar, some brown sugar, some milk, some egg, some vanilla, and you just mash this up. I just use one of my potato mashers just to mash everything together, make it nice and creamy. And then once you get that all mixed, you just set this bowl to the side, and we're gonna make this amazing, delicious kind of pecan streusel topping. So in a separate bowl, you're just gonna mash together some butter, flour, a little bit more brown sugar, and then I add in some pecans at the end. And I'm just kind of cutting this all up with a pastry cutter. If you don't have a pastry cutter, I just recommend cutting up the butter really small beforehand and then just kind of stirring it all up together. So once you have that done, you just pour your sweet potato mixture into your baking dish. You add that topping, and then you will bake that. And oh my goodness, this is so good. Once again, one of my favorite things about Thanksgiving. Alrighty friends, and last but definitely not least, this is the baked mac and cheese we are going to make this year. I tried this a few months ago and I shared it on my TikTok and Instagram, but I haven't shared it here. So this recipe comes from Chef Tini. You may be familiar if you are on TikTok and Instagram, but she starts by making a roux with lots of seasonings in there, and then you shred up about 5 cups of cheese. I'm going to have the recipe linked down below for you, but I'm telling you, it is delicious. You pour the cheese sauce, the roux, all over your noodles, layer that with your freshly shredded cheese, and bake it up. And just look how golden brown the top comes out. Oh my goodness. Like I said, my family has already requested me make this one this year, and I could not be more excited about it. Next, we're gonna start on an oven roasted whole chicken. And I decided to do chicken this year. In my last budget Thanksgiving, we did some turkey breast. I will also link that video down below. But let me just tell y'all, this chicken, oh my gosh, I honestly cannot wait to make it again. So I just have my little chicken here. I rinsed it off, just make sure, you know, it was nice and neat and clean. And then you really want to pat it dry with some paper towels the best that you can. I'm using my iron skillet today, but you can use pretty much any pan, a roasting pan or just a regular pan, whatever you have. I'm also taking some more butter, and I'm going to rub it all over the outside. I'm going to even get some up under the skin. Again, I bought 4 sticks of butter with my budget. So if you're wondering how I afforded all this butter, it was in my budget, okay? And then next, I am going to use a couple tablespoons of olive oil that I did already have here. But you don't have to do that. If you have some, just rub it all over the outside. But if you don't, the butter will be fine. So next, I'm going to go in with my seasonings. I'm going to use some anti-no-nos. That just has salt, pepper, garlic, and onion. I'm going to sprinkle that all over my chicken here, and then I'm also going in with some lemon pepper seasoning. And I love this because lemon and pepper goes perfectly with chicken, and it also has a little bit of celery in there, which I think is perfect again for chicken, but especially for Thanksgiving. And then one more seasoning, I added a little bit of paprika. That's just going to deepen this color of the chicken and of the broth that we're going to baste it with. It's going to be beautiful, and y'all just wait to see how this chicken comes out. My kids ate seconds and thirds, and they cannot wait for me to make it again as well. And this chicken is going into the oven at 425 for about 90 minutes. You may need to add 15 or 20 more. You want your breast to be 165 degrees, and I did go in and baste it maybe 3, maybe 4 times, because we do not want dry chicken, and let me tell y'all, it was not. All right, next up, I have a little twist on our green bean dish. I've made green bean casserole so many times, so I kind of wanted to switch it up today. So we're going to be making these caramelized bacon green bean bundles. And I'm just starting by blanching some fresh green beans that I cleaned and trimmed the ends up. And to blanch them, you just add them to some boiling water for anywhere between 3 and 5 minutes. And then you just pop those into some ice water to stop the cooking process. And it also keeps your green beans that really beautiful bright green color. So once I have those all nice and cool, I'm going to bring over a pack of bacon, and I went ahead and sliced it in half. And so next you take about 6 or 7 green beans, wrap in a half a piece of bacon, and then just place in your dish. And I'm going to continue doing this until I've used up all of my green beans. I will say I didn't even use all of this bacon. This was only a half a pack right here. I still had the other half over on the counter, so I could definitely add the rest of that bacon to my mashed potatoes or something like that. So next I have a small bowl here. I'm going to add some brown sugar to this. I bought a whole bag of brown sugar for my budget. I'm also going to add a little garlic powder. I don't think I showed that in this clip. And then I'm going to add a little bit of melted butter. I'm just going to give that a stir, and then I'm going to add a little bit of this mixture on top of each of my little green bean bundles. And this recipe was actually inspired by another recipe I saw that used soy sauce, or you could even do a little bit of hoisin sauce or oyster sauce, but none of those things were in my budget. So I'm going to type out this recipe below, but I'll also link or type out the recipe that I'm going to try here eventually because it just looks so good. And let me tell y'all, this was perfect as is. This was definitely something I would make again, just like this. I did go back and pour just a little bit of water kind of around my green beans for the bottom of the pan so nothing would burn or kind of stick way too much. But this is going to go into the oven at 375 for about 45 minutes. I don't know about y'all, but you've probably noticed the price of potatoes in our grocery stores. They are so high. So I'm going to show you how to make boxed mashed potatoes taste a little bit more like homemade. So I'm just using the potato flakes. It's not the flavored little packets. It's just the plain old potato flakes, the ones with not a lot of additives in them. So we're going to start with about 3 cups of these, and by the way, that's not the whole box, so this would actually make a lot more. Now, to kind of moisten your potatoes, you can use just plain old water, but I had some chicken broth left from our dressing, so that is the perfect thing to add flavor to these otherwise old plain old instant mashed potatoes. So I'm just heating up that water and chicken broth in the microwave. You want it till it's about boiling hot. And that's another great thing about this recipe. It's so quick and easy. You don't even need a stove. But I'm just using a whisk to incorporate my chicken broth and kind of moisten up all these potatoes. The one thing I will say, I love to use a hand mixer on real potatoes. But if you do that with instant, it is so easy to overmix and then they become gummy. And nobody wants a thick, gummy mashed potato. We want them light and fluffy. So just use your whisk, and then we're going to add in our seasonings. I like a good bit of black pepper and also some of this Lowry's seasoned salt. But just use salt, pepper, whatever seasonings you want or whatever seasonings you have. And then we're also going to melt 1 whole stick of butter, pour that in, a few tablespoons of milk, and then next we're not going to whisk anymore. We're just going to fold in the rest of that liquid. That's going to keep our potatoes so light and fluffy and smooth. These are actually so delicious. And the best part is it only takes about 5 minutes or so to whip these together. I'm just going to put mine in a baking dish and pop those into the oven to keep warm until everything else is done. But you can also make these ahead of time. This is the perfect make ahead recipe. Then the next day on Thanksgiving, all you have to do is pop it in the oven with everything else. You could even add a few more pats of butter on top if you wanted to, but this could not get any more easy, and these are actually so delicious. All right, y'all, my chicken is done. We're just basting it again at the end. You see all of that beautiful, delicious broth that it makes in the pan. This chicken was so tender, fall off the bone. That flavor of the seasonings and everything was absolutely perfect. I'll be making that again just for weeknight meals. And here's the rest of our spread. Those green bean bundles were perfect. Here is that easy mashed potato recipe. I'm seriously considering doing that for real Thanksgiving. Will my family let me? All right, I have my bacon frying over there. I hope y'all can hear me over that. But to our slow cooker, we're just gonna add 4 cans of green beans. I did drain and I rinsed these. And this recipe is pretty much just like my regular awesome green bean recipe, which by the way, that recipe is included in my new cookbook. And I want to tell y'all today is the day that the publisher is saying if you order it by end of day today, it could possibly get to you by Thanksgiving. I want to be really transparent with y'all. It may not get there by Thanksgiving, but if you're hoping that it might, today, end of day, you need to order it by, if that makes sense. But yes, this is one of the recipes included in there because it is just that good. I don't think I've ever made it in the slow cooker though, but in the spirit of freeing up our oven for other things on Thanksgiving, I think it will work. We're gonna give it a try. So I got my green beans in there. Next, I'm going in with some soy sauce. It's about a half a cup. I have the recipe down below for you. And also, by the way, in my cookbook, I do include the stovetop version of this. The baked recipe is the original, and then I include the stovetop version that you can kind of half down just for like a weeknight, you know, smaller family type situation. It's in there as well. Next, I'm gonna sprinkle on some garlic powder. You can measure it. I just kind of eyeball it. I've made this so many times. Also gonna eyeball about a cup of brown sugar. Next, we're going in with a whole stick of butter. Just gonna kind of cube it up a little bit. Lastly, we're just gonna add in those 4 pieces of bacon that we cooked up. Now we're just gonna give everything a toss. That butter will melt down. Everything nice and incorporated in here. You don't need to add any more liquid to this. All right, I'm gonna pop the lid on here and I'm just gonna cook this on high for an hour or 2. We'll see how long it takes. I think it's gonna work out. Alrighty, y'all. Our green beans are done. They are looking delicious. I tasted one and they taste spot on to baked. So this is a perfect recipe to free up some oven space, make your life a little bit easier. All you gotta do is brown up a few pieces of bacon. You could probably even use the already made, you know, the real bacon bits. I'm sure it will be just as good. Here is how those green beans are looking. They look a little bit crazy, but I promise you they have so much flavor in there. These things are so good. All right, so I have my mixer out. You can, of course, use a hand mixer as well. So, of course, you're gonna start with 1 can of pumpkin, and it is just the pure pumpkin, not the pumpkin pie filling. 3/4 cup of sugar, 2 eggs. You're gonna need about a cup of evaporated milk. So if you buy these little 12-ounce cans, not quite a whole can. We're gonna do 1 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. We're gonna do just a pinch of salt. And then the special ingredient in this recipe is pure maple syrup. You wanna make sure it's the pure maple syrup, not like pancake syrup or table syrup. Go with the pure maple syrup kind. It makes it so good. This is hands down my most favorite pumpkin pie recipe ever. And it's so easy, but that maple syrup, I'm telling y'all, just kicks it up another notch.
So while our pie filling is mixing up, I wanted to give you another make-ahead tip. Pumpkin pies are so easy to make ahead of time. You can make them the day before, pop it in the fridge, and you're good to go. Also, this recipe will make 2 pies if you don't mind a slightly thinner pie. It's still about 1 inch thick, but I think that is actually the perfect thickness for pie. I like my crust ratio to be pretty high, plus we gotta add whipped cream and all that, so this is the perfect recipe. You can split it in half, wrap one with some plastic wrap, pop it in the freezer, let it thaw in the fridge overnight before Thanksgiving, and you already have a pumpkin pie made.
All right, we're just gonna pour in our batter. I'm using a pre-made pie crust, and this recipe makes enough for 2 pies. So this is another really great make ahead recipe. I'm actually going to freeze one of these after they bake, so that way all I have to do is thaw it out in the refrigerator overnight, and we'll already have a pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving. So these are gonna go into the oven at 425 for about 15 minutes, and then we're gonna reduce the heat and bake them a little longer at 350. I'll have the whole recipe as well as all these others linked or typed out below in the description box for you. All right, my pies are done. Like I said, we baked those 15 minutes, turned the temperature down, and they baked for another 45. And they look perfect. I do want to say you can watch if your crusts start to brown. You can just lightly lay some tinfoil over it. It doesn't have to be tight. You can literally just tear off a piece of tinfoil and lay it straight in the oven, just very lightly, so it doesn't pull up your pie. You can even spray it with a little cooking spray, but that will keep your crust from browning too much. So now we're just going to let these cool completely, and once they've reached room temperature, I will wrap one of these up with a few layers of plastic wrap, and then I will just pop it in the freezer, and like I said, it'll be ready to thaw and have for Thanksgiving. So they look so good, and I'm not sure if I'll cut into this one on this video because like I said, we're gonna wait and let them cool, but y'all trust me, these are the best pumpkin pies ever.
Starting off first with stuffing sausage balls.
All right, so to a large bowl, we're gonna take 1 pound of breakfast sausage, and then next to the bowl, we're gonna add 1 whole prepared package of stovetop stuffing mix. I'm using the chicken flavor just because that's what I like. And basically the stuffing mix is taking the place of Bisquick, which is in, you know, your normal sausage balls. I think this is gonna be so good though. And then next we're gonna add about 3 cups of cheese. I went ahead and shredded up some fresh Colby Jack cheese and cheddar. So I'm gonna do about 1.5 cups of both. All right, we're just gonna get this combined really well. And you can use whatever to mix it. I find the best tools to use are your hands, but just for the sake of it looking prettier, I'm gonna use this spoon. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start rolling these out into about 1 inch thick sausage balls. And you can bake these in the oven, but I found the better way to do them is in the air fryer. It creates a crispy crust on the outside, and they're so tender and delicious on the inside. I'm gonna get these rolled out and we'll take them to the air fryer. So to do my sausage balls in the air fryer,
I like to cook mine at about 360. It's gonna preheat for just a minute, but that way the temperature is kind of low. We want that middle to be done before the outside is, you know, burnt. So I like to do my temperature a little bit lower, but they're only gonna take about 10 minutes. I have to tell you guys, I loved how these turned out. That outside, like I said, got super crispy, and the inside was even more fluffy than your typical sausage ball. They were so good. And then I thought, who doesn't love a little bit of cranberry sauce with their dressing or stuffing? So I added a little bit of that for a sauce on the side. Next up, we have these super scrumptious and easy pecan pie bars. Add 1 3/4 cup of flour. And then next we're gonna add 1½ sticks of cold butter. Just gonna kind of throw it in here, and we're gonna chop that up into the flour mixture. And now we have the perfect consistency for our crust. All right, I have my 9x13. I'm just gonna give it a quick little spray. That's mainly if anything is on the sides, but I'm also gonna add some parchment paper. And so this way when the bars are done, we can just lift out the whole thing by the sides. So now we're just gonna pour our butter and flour mixture into our 9x13, and we're just gonna press this down. You just wanna make sure it's pressed down really well and evenly in your baking dish. And we're gonna go ahead and bake this for about 20 minutes or until the edges are just starting to brown. All right, so we're obviously gonna need some pecans for our pecan bars. So I'm gonna give those a quick little chop. Next, we're gonna start on the filling for our pecan pie bars. So we're gonna put 1/3 cup of flour plus 1 tablespoon of flour. Next, we're gonna add 2/3 cup of firmly packed brown sugar. You're gonna add 4 eggs. We're gonna add 1 teaspoon of salt, and then 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. And then lastly, we're gonna add 1½ cups of dark Caro syrup. I have my little measuring cup. I'm gonna give it a spray so that Caro syrup will just pour out easily. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and give this a mix. Now we're just gonna pour our chopped pecans back into our mixture and kind of stir those in gently. Now we're just gonna pour our filling right over top of the crust. And this is gonna go back into the oven for 40 or 50 minutes until our filling is set. If you want your house to smell amazing for the holidays, make these pecan pie bars. Oh my goodness, they smelled so good. It was all we could do to not eat them until they had set up, and they will take a little bit. They'll need to come to room temperature, and then I popped ours in the fridge so they could cool a little faster. You want them to be pretty hard before you slice them up. And also you want to slice them in smaller pieces because they are very rich. So first of all, today we're going to start with bacon wrapped spinach dip crostinis. These were so delicious, and like I said, so easy. So you just want to start with a loaf of French baguette bread, and you're going to slice that up into about 3/4 of an inch slices. Next, you'll just need to cut a few pieces of bacon in half. That way you have 2 slices from 1 piece of bacon. And then you just line those up on a cookie sheet or a baking sheet and sprinkle them with a light sprinkle of brown sugar. You're going to bake this in the oven for about 5 to 7 minutes. The bacon will still be very soft at this point, but it's going to cook again once we wrap those around our crostinis. But this brown sugar on top of the bacon just gives this a sweet, smoky flavor that just sends it right over the top. Once your bacon is cooked but still slightly soft, I just put mine over on a paper plate, let some of that grease drain off of there, and then I'm just taking my French baguette pieces and I just like to line them up on my cookie sheet again And now what we're going to do is add some spinach dip. You can make your own. The recipe I'm going to link below has the recipe to make your own, but I find it really easy just to buy this spinach dip from Sam's because I happen to love it. And you're just going to put a tablespoon of spinach dip on each little piece of crostini, and then you're going to wrap each one with a slice of that bacon, like a little bacon belt. These are so good, y'all. And then next, all you do is bake these for about 15 minutes until that bacon gets nice and golden brown. These are delicious. If you love spinach dip and bacon, you must try these. Next up, we have maple caramel bacon crack bites. And yes, the name definitely fits. These are so good, you cannot eat just one. So you're going to start with some phyllo dough shells. I found these at Publix. Just kind of put those to the side. I'm just letting you know you will need them. Then you're going to cook some slices of bacon and just crumble those up and set them to the side as well. Next, I'm just taking those little phyllo cups and setting them again on my little baking sheet. And I'm going to go in each one and add 1/4 of a teaspoon of brown sugar. You only need a tiny bit. So just put 1/4 of a teaspoon in each little one. Then after that, you're going to go behind and add some maple syrup. You can also use just regular, pancake syrup, but you just want to add, again, a tiny, tiny amount. So just do that for each one of your cups. And by the way, I will have each of these recipes either typed out or linked down below. You can always look down in my description box. Anytime that I'm sharing a recipe, I will always have the recipe down there for you. So make sure you check that out. And also I'm going to link the past couple years Thanksgiving appetizers, holiday appetizers. That way you have even more to go and look at and get some ideas from. Okay, next we're just going to go in each little cup and add some of that crumbled bacon, and you want to kind of push it into the cup to make sure it's all stuck in that caramel yummy goodness. And then after you get the bacon in there, I just sprinkle mine again with a little bit more brown sugar, just a tiny, tiny amount because these can get overly sweet, but y'all, they're just so good. You got to try this. So sprinkle them with a little bit more brown sugar, and then all you do is bake them for about 12 to 15 minutes until the bacon is crisp and the maple caramel is bubbly and caramelized. And you just want to cool for about 5 minutes before serving. Next up are easy stuffed mushrooms. So you're just going to start out with some Italian style breadcrumbs, some Parmesan cheese. You're also going to need some garlic and then some salt, pepper, and olive oil. So you're just going to mix up everything except the olive oil first just to make sure it's nice and combined. Also, you really don't need that much salt because the Parmesan cheese is pretty salty itself, so just be careful with that. But once you get those all stirred up and combined, you're going to add in the olive oil, and that's kind of what's going to bind everything together to make our filling. So I just start out with a tablespoon of olive oil and stir that up and see how my mixture is looking, because you want it to be moisturized obviously, but not, watery by any means. So add about a tablespoon at a time, stir that up, and then you'll see me add in a little bit more olive oil and just enough to where everything kind of sticks together. That's how you want the filling to be. So I just have some white mushrooms here that I washed and patted dry. I'm just going to add a little bit of filling to each mushroom, and you're going to bake these for about 20 to 25 minutes at 400 until your mushrooms are tender and that filling is a nice golden brown. These are so good. These are very light but still full of flavor. So I hope that you give this recipe a try as well as the others I shared in this video. Don't forget to check down below for the other recipe ideas. Like I said, they could be for any time for the holidays coming up and all of our gatherings that we all have. So if you're stopping by for the first time, I hope that you will go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'm always sharing easy and delicious recipes like this one. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back and checking out another one of my videos. If you've made it this far in the video, let me know what are some of your tried and true family Thanksgiving recipes. What just makes it feel like Thanksgiving when you make that specific recipe? I really want to know because I might give those a try this year. I hope you're all doing well. I'm so thankful you stopped by today, and I hope to see you really soon in my next video. Bye, y'all.